Welcome to Off Court with myself, Greg Rusedski, Kevin Palmer from Tennis 365, and Ashley Neaves, the tennis mentor. Kevin, you're going to run us through the show today, what we're going to be talking about.
So we're going to look back at Wimbledon, Greg, and we're going to pick out some. I don't know whether we call them heroes and villains because there's no villains in tennis. It's all a happy and joyous place. And Wimbledon over the last 2 weeks has been quite fantastic. So we're going to pick out the players that we think have done as well as we'd hope. Maybe some that are on the up and some that are maybe disappointing. We're obviously not going to talk about the champions, as we know that they're on the up. They were absolutely brilliant. Jannik Sinner, incredible in his win against Alexander Zverev, and I picked him from the start. I think we all did. Everyone picked Jannik Sinner to win. We all love Jannik Sinner on this show, despite some criticism that says we don't. But no, we're big Jannik Sinner fans. He was brilliant on the centre court. No question he could handle the heat and everything that was coming out of him, Alexander Zverev. And then Linda Noskova, a very, very unexpected winner in the women's. We spoke about it on yesterday's cut show. Brilliant final, managed to hold her nerve when she lost some match points in the second set, came back, did brilliantly to lift her first Grand Slam title. So we know that those two are going to take so much out of this Wimbledon. We're going to look at some others. And the first player that I'm going to pick is Alex Eala, who I thought was absolutely fantastic from first to last. So the array of light in that Wimbledon press room when she came in, joyous in her comments, joyous on court, and such a huge fan base around the world. When she beat Iga Swiatek on the Saturday in front of all the big sports stars in the Royal Box, it was one of those Wimbledon moments that you kind of remember for a long time to come. Her reaction was beautiful, the emotion that poured out of her. She's a real superstar in the making. She's up to mid-20s in the rankings, I think, today. So, Greg, thoughts on Alex Eala and where we go from here with her? She felt like she had a little bit of a breakthrough getting to the second week for the first time.
Yeah, first Filipino man or woman ever to beat the fourth round of a major. She's like the Manny Pacquiao of the Philippines. Everybody turns on the TV to watch her. The whole nation comes to a standstill. Wherever she is in the world, everybody wants to see her. She's the biggest star on the WTA tour. Love a lefty. The Swiatek match, as you talked about, was absolutely brilliant. Paulini, she battled, didn't find a way to get through that, but getting close. The serve is the area. If she can get that serve up, then she's top 20 and starts climbing higher. She's got the game to win at Wimbledon. It's just keeping on moving forward, keeping on improving. But for me, the most impressive thing was her mentality. Between the ears, never say die. She always gets stuck in. She's grinding, she's fighting. And this is the big breakthrough. Can she continue it on the hard courts coming up this summer? I think so. If she can get a little bit more pop on the first and second serve, she's good. She's a great tactician, and I can't wait to see her play this summer on the hard courts. She's really impressed me at Wimbledon. What were your thoughts on her, Ashley?
Yeah, mirroring what you guys said, but I think the one thing is to consider is sometimes when there's so much hype around a player, it can be dangerous for them and their development and the expectation and the pressure. But I really do feel like all of her fans have her best interest at heart. It's only positive, and she seems to embrace it. She seems to love it, and she seems to thrive upon it. So I just hope that things don't get too big for her on the big stage. She loves it at the moment, but it can change over time. So as you say, Greg, you love a lefty. She's got a great game style for the grass, and I think it translates very, very well to the hard courts as well. So she's super young. She's going to be brilliant for tennis, and it kind of leads us on to one of the disappointments from the women's draw. And it's not so much a disappointment in the match. It was a phenomenal match, but when Swiatek lost to Eala, and you said before we got onto the show, Greg, that you thought that she was a little bit more nervous this tournament, and not showing the same levels of confidence that she's had before. And it was a great match, and I'm not taking anything away from Eala because it was brilliant. But Swiatek, being last year's champion, you'd expect her to go a little bit further in the tournament, especially against a young upcoming player. So Kevin, we'll go to you first about Swiatek, and then we'll go back to Greg. What were your thoughts?
I just feel that at the moment we're eager. If she's winning comfortably and doing what she can do, she kind of still runs away with matches. The 6-love sets are still there, but it feels like almost everything can turn very, very quickly with her at the moment. You see her looking up to her box a lot more than you used to. I think she's more anxious, almost looking for feedback from her coach and her psychologist up there in the box. There's a lot going on and off the court for Iga, you feel at the moment, that in the mind as well, that she's had so many setbacks, and that aura of invincibility she had has been chipped away, not just by Sabalenka and the top players, but she's now losing to she lost to Alex Eala in Miami last year as an example. That was a good sort of sign that things were cracking. And it just feels, Greg, I don't know what you think, that mentally she's not quite there at the moment. She needs to try and rebuild her mind as much as her game.
Well, I think she's putting so much pressure and so much expectation on herself. Like she should be dominating like she was when she was winning those French Opens easily, winning the matches very convincingly. If you look at last year, she had a good year, but Wimbledon saved her when she won the title. This year, she hasn't defended it. She hired Francisco Roy because she was hoping to get playing better on the grass courts and try to defend her Wimbledon title. I think she's got to just kind of get away from the game, remember what she's achieved and what she's done, and just try to play with some freedom. Because if you put so much pressure and expectation and aren't just playing at one point at a time and just letting it happen, it's very difficult. In the Swiatek Eala match, Eala looked like the person who had 6 majors. She was the one who's swagger, walking around confidence. As you said, Kevin, she was looking up to the box. She was very nervous. She was very tight, and she's got to find a way to find that love and remember what it was when she was a youngster, when there was just joy for playing tennis and finding ways to win. If she does that, she can find a way back. But sometimes she's almost too intense. It's a positive, but then it can be a negative as well.
Greg, you took the words out of my mouth. One of the things, looking at her game from a coaching perspective, and don't get me wrong, I have never coached a Grand Slam champion, so I have no right to tell Iga how to play. But one thing that always comes to mind when I look at her is the intensity is at a level where it can create tightness. And she is a player that Rafa was her role model growing up, and she watched Rafa play, and Rafa is one of the most intense players on the tour, but he also played with a lot of looseness as well. You know, he was ferocious, but he would let the racket go. And I think sometimes when Iga plays, she's on her toes and she's doing 1,000 steps per second. And she can become very shanky with her ground strokes because her swings are very quick and frantic almost. And I think if she could take a little bit out of Federer's book and be a little bit more loose and flowing around the court, and she could blend those two players together, I think she could become a lot more consistent and a lot more dangerous. But at the moment, I just do feel that the intensity on the court and the anxiety as a mindset, they go hand in hand. And I think it needs to soften up slightly with a bit more fluidity. And, you know, I think over time that comes from mental side of things, but also you can work on that technically on the court, you know, getting her footwork flowing rather than being frantic. So yeah, I agree with you, Greg. You may not have been going that route when you were talking about intensity, but I just feel like it sometimes just looks a little bit frantic.
Well, I think it's mindset. For her, you look at everything being anxious. When she was dominating, yes, she was disciplined, but she still had a little bit of relaxation in there. And it's a tricky balance because what made her great and made her such a champion was that incredible intensity. But then if you take it to the extreme, you don't get the balance. Like usually when you play your best tennis, you're not overthinking. You're just saying, okay, I got to break down the backhand. Let's go into the backhand side. And if I need to change it to forehand, I will. And you just let it flow. And if she can get that flow back and that enjoyment, I think she's too good a player not to get back to where she belongs in the top 5 competing for slams, especially on clay courts, her favorite surface, where she hasn't had the best performances the last few years.
Who's next, guys? Greg, pick your hero or your rising star or whoever you think it might be, the one that stood out.
Well, there's only one person there from a British perspective, and it was the only Brit that was going after round 3, Arthur Fery. Talk about swagger, intensity, great body language, great mindset. Starts the tournament as a wild card, ends it going to his first semis of a major, ends up 36 in the world, British #1. It was like a dream run. Unbelievable stuff. Against Bergs, you know, he was down a double break in the 4th set, down 2-1, nearly a chance to double break, to have a point for him to be again up a double break in that 4th set, down a break again, then down a break against Dimitrov in the 4th round, twice in the down 2-1, finds a way to win, destroys Kabali, who takes him like, oh, he beat me in Australia because I had food poisoning, crushes him to make his first major semifinals. What a breath of fresh air. What a great attitude. And he's got to be in the men's game at the moment, the breakthrough player this year, because we knew he had the ability, but he hadn't had his health. He had that elbow bruising a year ago, could barely serve. and now he's in every tournament. It's just magnificent. He'll be starting up the hard court swing probably a few weeks before Cincinnati main draw, US Open main draw, British #1, and can push forward by the end of the year, hopefully into the top 20 if he can continue to stay healthy and play with the swagger he plays with.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot argue. Fery had a magical couple of weeks and so good. He kind of saved British tennis really when you look at the first rounds that we had. And of course we had doubles and wheelchair doubles champions as well, so we shouldn't not mention that. But Arthur Fery, incredible. And I know the whole world, the whole of the UK are going to be watching him in the next few tournaments, and there's going to be a bit more pressure, there's going to be a bit more expectation. He's going to lose matches that he shouldn't lose, as all players do, and I just hope that he can kind of bounce back from those, because the British press sometimes, as you know, Greg, can be cruel. And I'm hoping that he can bounce off this, use his ranking to go deeper into some of the tournaments that he's not even been able to play before. But yeah, it's life changing for him and his tennis, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing. What do you think, Kevin?
But the other thing is, I want to jump in there before you say, Kevin. He's had the World Cup going on the same time, and England's still in the World Cup. So that's one of the things that deflects a little bit from. Plus, the press don't really know him now. They know his life story. I don't think they're going to be brutal against. They're going to give him time because, he's come from Stanford University where he played in America. He went through the system, and this year's happened. It's like he kind of saved not only the British tennis players and having a British story, but he also helped the press. Imagine if we had no Brits to write about or to talk about for 2 weeks, because basically after the third round, we had almost nobody there except for Fery. So he was the story. He saved a lot of people's jobs. So they're not going to be too harsh with him. Right, Kevin?
Absolutely. I mean, some of the journalists have been made redundant in recent years because Andy Murray's not around anymore. It's almost like tennis is slipping down the radar. But to me, the problem the issue for Fery now is how does he back it up in a way? Because the expectations are not just from the press, they're going to be on him and on his shoulders. He suddenly got this huge opportunity over the next probably year, certainly 8 to 9 months, where he's going to be in everything. I don't know how well he's going to play on clay next year, for example. I don't know how he's going to do on hard courts. He should be good on hard courts. All of that college tennis is on hard courts. I think I watched the Kaboli match on centre court, and honestly, it was dream tennis. If he plays like that, he's top 20, easy. And he's already 36, I think it is today now with the new rankings. To me, he doesn't look like he's quite got a second serve that's good enough to take him beyond the top sort of 25, 20 at the moment. But I mean, we're talking a guy who was 114 before Wimbledon and suddenly he's into the top 30. So, or top 40, but he's right there. He's knocking on the door of a seeding for the US Open. He's got very few points to defend over the next few weeks. There's every chance that Arthur Fery could finish 2026, certainly in the top 25 of the ATP rankings. Greg, that would be astonishing, wouldn't it, really?
Well, it would be. And I think he's going to transition well just because of the mentality. He walks on the court. First time he walks on the center court, not a problem, beats Grigor Dimitrov. Next time he walks on, he beats Kaboli. And we saw what Sasha Zverev did to Sinner, pushing him, especially in 4 sets, playing the tennis of his life right now. And he was 6-6 in the opening set before Zverev put down the hammer. So for me, I think he will be in the top 20. I think he's going to climatize well. Mindset swagger goes a long way in this business. And Richard Krajicek talked about it, and he said, what I love is his mindset, and I see that as a top 10 player with that sort of mindset. So there's a lot of praise for him. You're right, he's going to have to adjust to it, but you never know. He could get off to a flyer in the hard courts, and he looks like a guy who can run all day. So the hotter it is playing college tennis in university in California, he doesn't mind the heat.
One player I'm going to touch on next, and it's a disappointment. It's not someone on the way down. Is Emma Raducanu. We were all hoping after that incredible performance at the Queen's Club in the brilliant WTA event they now have at the Queen's Club that she was going to kick on. She was going to have a really good Wimbledon. The matches she played at Queen's to get to the final, she had a chance in the final against Donna Vekic and really came back. And that Sunday, you could see the viewing figures on the BBC were huge, and they were just like, everyone really wants Emma Raducanu to do well. There's some online trolls that maybe don't like her and criticize her and have a pop at her, but I think the general public as a mass would rather Emma Raducanu was on our TV screens and lighting them up. And it was so disappointing she picked up a stress fracture just before Wimbledon. Actually, when you look at Emma and the last 5 years really leading up to what's going to be the 5th anniversary of her US Open win in a few weeks' time, I mean, it's not been a great story in many ways, has it?
No, it hasn't. The promising thing is how deep she went at Queens, and that just shows that the level is still there, and that's exciting, I think, for her and for her fans as well, because we haven't really seen that. She's not been on court, and it's very similar to Jack Draper. He came back for a couple of matches and he showed that his level is still high. And so if these two players can get back onto the court and be fit for a period of time, not just fit for one tournament, they're going to rise back up the rankings very, very quickly. But it's just a case of, are they going to get fit and are they going to have longevity? And that's the real concern, because the level is there, but there's no point in having the level if your body can't handle it. And that's a huge concern. But I really feel for Emma, and I really feel for Jack and their teams. And I think the one thing that's difficult from Emma's perspective, we've spoken about consistency in her team, and she's not had that, and that can be challenging because there's so many people involved in her tennis, from coaches, physios, S&C, nutritionists, psychologists, and sometimes it can be messy when there's so many people involved and not enough consistency. So whether there is a missing link in the chain of communication when it comes to what these players are working on, when it comes to S&C or whatever, I don't know, but something's not right, and we just want to see them both back on court.
Yeah, and the other thing I've gone to add to that is, like, if you look at our ratings, I spoke to somebody who does Sky Sports, and they say they're by ratings numbers, is number 1, number 2 is Novak Djokovic, number 3 is Jack Draper, and number 4 is Carlos Alcaraz. So we need her from a British perspective for our TV networks. And as you talked about, Kevin, Queens was brilliant getting to the finals, and then the stress fracture in the foot, which pulled her out of the championship, was so disappointing because she was getting momentum. Everything looked good. She was back with Andrew Richardson, the coach that was there when she won that US Open, and we're thinking, great, let's get back. But I think this is where the load of training and sports science needs to be in a position where we don't have all these athletes being injured. We have a lot of British players that have had bruised boning, stress fractures of the legs, and it's above average compared to most nations. And that's the problem. I don't understand why this is happening so often in British players, but I'd love to see them healthy. And we need to find a solution, whether it's doing the weight-bearing loads the right amount, getting the nutrition right, finding the consistency of coaches, because we have great players. Draper, 4 in the world, knocking on the door, beat Djokovic on his first week back in Indian Wells, and then hasn't stop, start. Please, can we get Emma, Jack, all these British players healthy, because we need them in our game to advertise our sports, to bring more people in. So I really would love to see her be healthy for the hard court swing. And as you said, 5-year anniversary to winning US Open. Wouldn't it be great if she could get healthy, have a good run on the hard courts, and have a good run at the US Open? We desperately love to see her back to her best.
Greg, is there a situation where some players, some athletes, it doesn't matter what sport they're in, that their body just doesn't take it, and whatever they do is not going to work? We're not there with Emma, are we?
No, I don't know. I think you have to be in the team to really know what the issue is, and it depends how you're training, how you're loading, what's happening. I don't have enough information, but all I know is we have a lot of talented players, but we need to find a way to keep them healthy. And also consistency of team helps, consistency of training. You can't take long periods off of time. Even when you're on holiday, you need to still hit balls. You still need to go to the gym. You need to keep it going, because stop starting is the most difficult thing on your body. Okay, if I'm a recreational player now, I wouldn't call myself a player, but if I stop for a few weeks and then I got a seniors event or something, I'm sore. I'm stiff. I don't bounce back as quickly. So it's easier for me if I'm just training consistently. And the same approach is for the pros. And you have to get that sort of impact and volume. And for Emma at Queens, the problem was she played so many back-to-back matches. So she wasn't trained for her body to be able to do that. So it's kind of, well, you can say it's bad luck because the weather and the timing and all these things. But you have to be prepared sometimes to play 2 matches in a day, and maybe back-to-back 2 matches. Because in our generation, qualies was 2 matches on a day, then 1 match, and then you play main draw. So you could have 4 matches in 3 days, which isn't unusual. So I just wish her well. I want to see her healthy. I want to see all our Brits healthy, go in the right direction. But you've got to have a look at the sports science behind it as well.
Ashley, give us your next. Where are you? Are we on hits or misses with you? I can't remember.
So I've done a miss with Swiatek. I've got a few hits. You want me to narrow it down to one?
Well, no, you can do it, won't we?
Let's go for the women's side first, because we're on that topic. So my big hit for the tournament was Mukova. I keep talking about her because I think she's amazing for the sport. I think she's one of the most whole players that we have on the tour. She can do everything. It was I had her down to win the final against Noskova. I thought she would deal with the pace a little bit better than she did, but Noskova just blasted her off the court, and it was still a fantastic match. She did brilliantly in the second set to come back and win that. But I just think she's amazing to watch, and she's so entertaining. She's got so many shots in her locker. She even hit a tweener, which I haven't seen on the WTA tour for many years. I'm a big fan of Mukova, and I think she can play on all the surfaces as well. She's reached the French Open final. She's now reached the Wimbledon final as well. And I think she's going to be, a slam winner at some point in the next couple of years. So Mukova is definitely my hit for Wimbledon. What do you guys think of her?
Well, I think Mukova is a complete player, but you know what I'm thinking right now? I want to see a women's rivalry. I want to see like head to head the same people meeting in finals. That's what we had with the big three with Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, add in Murray as well as Stan the Man. Then you had Alcaraz, Sinner going head to head the last 2 years and a bit. Zverev's kind of joined the party. Djokovic is still there. In the women's game, as I said, I don't have a clue who's going to win anything these days. Do you guys? We thought it was going to be Raducanu, Sabalenka dominating. Eala's joining the parties. But there's not like this group of players that you think, okay, the generations which have the most viewerships are like Chrissy Martina, played 80 times. They have a great documentary on them. That's great to see. McEnroe, Borg, two different personalities playing in the biggest showcases. And I feel like the women's game needs that sort of rivalry we had when we had Serena, Venus, Sharapova, and Kleister. We know those fives were always in for a fight, and they were always battling against each other week in, week out. So my kind of miss, even though Mukova's great, I want to see that sort of rivalry. That's what I love to see. And we feel like we need that a little bit more on the WTA tour right now, because it'd be interesting to see what the TV numbers were globally for Noskova and Mukova, who are two great tennis players. But we got to bring in those non-tennis fans. Like the biggest story in the women's event was Serena Williams playing singles. That was the story of Wimbledon. The hype, the talk was insane, and it was global. She still brings them in. And that's what we need to do in the women's. It's like the men's right now. We're missing Carlos Alcaraz. Alcaraz is huge. The rivalry with Sinner and Alcaraz was big. We had a great final. But Alcaraz is like that little bit of stardust that adds your non-tennis fan into play, especially last year when we had that French Open final. Epic. People were talking about it who knew nothing about tennis. Everybody was talking about it. And that's the sort of thing we need to try to find a way to bring into the WTA a little bit more. And let's hope Alcaraz gets back in.
Do you think we'd see more rivalries on the WTA tour if they played 5 sets in the slams?
I have
The reason I
no
ask is if you
idea.
think about in the men's game, they 4 tournaments a year, they play at best of 5, and you really have to have everything to win a 5-set match. It's not just about starting well. You have to have mental fortitude. You have to have physical endurance. You have to have everything. And I think if the men played only best of 3, we'd have a few more upsets, I would think. And I just wonder, what do you think?
I'm not sure on that. You know why I say so? How many Master Series in a row has Sinner won? I mean,
Yeah, true.
it's been so dominant. It's been an absolute joke. It's like Sinner, and then beep in the French Open. Where's the big upset when he had the heat wave? So I think the rivalry would still be there, and you still have the big names, even if it was 2 out of 3 sets, because they would just know, I've got to get on it right away. I don't have as much leeway. So I don't think that I'll ever have the 3 out of 5 set in the women's events, because they've talked about it in the past. It's never happened. And, even with Kleister's and Venus, Serena, they were meeting when it was 2 out of 3 sets. So not sure I'm not sure on that one, Ashley. I'm uncertain.
Fair enough.
What we did have, guys, was Iga against Sabalenka was the rivalry for a while, and one of the things that's dropped off, both of them have dropped off in a way from the peak of their powers. But Sabalenka's defeat to Naomi Osaka at Wimbledon was one of the sort of standout moments of the tournament, and then kind of backed up what we all thought coming into this. We spoke on our preview show about Sabalenka losing her way, losing her confidence, losing her aura a little bit. She kind of lost 2 matches back to back, 6-love in the deciding set, and then she goes out at Wimbledon. The pressure and the sort of tension that rings out of her, you can see it on the court. She just can't control herself, Greg, and she needs to get hold of that when she gets onto the hard courts now.
Well, I'm sure she will. She likes playing in New York very much. For me, it's ironic. Everybody who beats Sabalenka plays a great match, and then they lose the next round. They don't continue on the tear after beating the world number 1. Osaka looked great. I mean, I was like, wow, what a performance. I thought she was my pick to win the title as well. And then she goes out in the next round. And then Goth had that easy forehand in the middle of court against Mukova, where she played a drop shot with the ball being a head, shoulder height. And I was speaking to Bartoli about that, and she's like, no, that was the right shot, which I was kind of like, okay, I think when you're under pressure, you don't play the drop shot above the net. You just put it away. So it's interesting to see the big stars that we know aren't coming through rivalry, because originally we thought it was going to be Sabalenka Osaka when Osaka broke through and beat Serena to win her few US Open, dominated, won 4 slams. And you just don't get those long periods of consistency you used to have in the past. Like Chrissy Martina, how many years were the rivalry? Steffi Graf, Monica Seles, that was a long rivalry. We're not getting that. And, you almost need like something where it's like ice and fire, and you get them week in, week out. That was why the 1980s, for me, I'm a little old fashioned, was my best time, because I'd always see the rivalries, the other characters around it as well, and you'd always see him playing week in, week out.
We need rivalries, and it's the same when we talk about the doubles tour, and we'll probably talk on another episode about that, because there's lots going on in the doubles world. But I think if doubles pairs stayed together like the Bryan brothers did, it would create a lot more rivalries in the game and characters, and it would be much better for doubles when it comes to people following it. And it's the same on the women's tour. I think they need more rivalries. But I'm going to go back into my players of the tournament in the men's draw, which we haven't spoken too much about, and I'm torn between 3. Obviously, Fery, Greg, you've stolen that. Well done. I want to talk about Djokovic. I want to talk about Felix Auger-Aliassime and Zverev, because these 3 players have had an incredible Wimbledon. And I'm going to start with Djokovic, because to be playing to the level he played at, especially that match against Felix Auger-Aliassime, is just incredible for someone of 39 years old. And I'm 37. My bones are creaking. I just like you, Greg. It takes me 1 set and I'm achy the next day. This man is an absolute physical machine, but the way that he plays against the best players in the world is just ridiculous. And, his match against Sinner, it was high quality still. He just looked like he was just 1 step off the pace. If he was a couple of years younger, I think that match would have been completely different. And he's got how many years on Sinner? 14, 15 years, something crazy like that. So yeah, we've got to give Novak Djokovic a bit of a round of applause, because he was in with a shout of winning the whole tournament, and to say that about someone who's 39 years old is just mad.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Connors was quoted as saying, "Stop asking the guy about retiring. The guy's playing unbelievable. He made the Australian Open finals, beating Sinner earlier this year, semis of Wimbledon. That's better than 99.9% of people's careers, those two results. So if Djokovic wants to keep playing, that quarterfinal match against Auger-Aliassime was gangbusters. I mean, unbelievable tennis from both men. And he went into lockdown mode. It was classic Novak Djokovic in that final set tiebreaker. So credit to Novak. Unbelievable. My heart, though, goes out to Auger-Aliassime. I mean, the guy is on the cusp. He is so close to a big result. Semis of the French, and then losing that tiebreaker against Djokovic must have been difficult for him. He split up with his long-term coach, Frederic Fontaine, after 10 years. But I think he's on the cusp to joining that party. He's knocking on the door, and he's a phenomenal athlete, a great person. So, kudos to Novak Djokovic. Keep going as long as you are. Mate, the best 39-year-old I've ever seen. To me, still the GOAT. And Auger-Aliassime, I think he's knocking on the door. What are your views, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, Ashley mentions Zverev as well, and I think Zverev is absolutely there now. He's moved beyond where he was maybe 6 or 8 weeks ago, where he hadn't won that first Grand Slam. He's got it in the bag at Roland Garros. Yes, he was beaten by Sinner, but I saw a different Alexander Zverev on centre court yesterday in the men's final. He looked confident. He looked ready to win again. And I think when he won that first set, the big roar he let out really made us all believe that he thought he could win. And I don't think he did think he could beat Sinner and maybe 6 weeks ago. So that's changed massively. But as Ashley and you've said, for me, Novak Djokovic, not quite player of the tournaments because Jannik Sinner's obviously beaten him. But I mean, what he's doing at the age of 39 is, we've never seen anything like it before. It's just insane. He's not even a full-time professional tennis player anymore. He's basically part-time. He doesn't play any ATP Tour events at all, hardly. He rocks up at Grand Slams, uses the first couple of rounds to get himself in the groove, and then just goes on a tear. And I mean, the Auger-Aliassime match, 5 hours and 15 minutes on centre court, I was, there to watch it. It was just something out of this world. And it's what Novak does. It's, you just know eventually he's going to find a way to win. And often at this stage of a career, there's a bit of a dip, but it just doesn't seem to be coming. And I'm not convinced he can win a 25th Grand Slam, but I'm probably thinking if something happens to Jannik Sinner, then I'm backing Novak all the way to get there. Greg, your thoughts?
He needs a lot more luck. I think Alcaraz being out this Wimbledon was huge for him. I think he was a little bit hurt by the Auger-Aliassime match where he ran out of gas and Sinner played magnificently. He had a little bit of luck down under in Australia when Musetti was beating him, and he got a full 48 hours rest and was fresh. And Sinner didn't execute on the big points, and he didn't make the finals. As we saw, he couldn't recover for that final, even though he won the opening set against Alcaraz. I kind of feel to myself, I don't know if he's going to win a 25th Slam now. I think this was possibly his last chance, but continue playing. Stranger things have happened. I've gotten it wrong many times, but there's not many 39-year-old plus people who win majors. And it kind of feels like, yeah, he can go semis, possibly a final. But to get over the final hurdle now, it feels like that next generation's establishing himself. Zverev's just shown up to the party. The way he served these 2 weeks was frightening. He lost 2 sets going into the finals, and he took a set off Sinner, who was playing at a different level than his first round match. So then we're talking about Auger-Aliassime. He has impressed me the last 2 majors, physically getting there. He's improving. He's on the cusp of getting in the party. So I think right now there's maybe a few too many guys when he gets to semis, quarters, or finals. I don't know if he'll have enough physically in the tank. That's the question mark. Mentally, he's up there with them, but he's just fractionally not having enough energy to pass the final hurdle, possibly, as we saw in the Australian Open. And then this week again, battled beautifully. But again, even if he would have shocked Sinner, would he have beaten Zverev on the form? That's the problem. You have to go back to back against 2 of the hottest players at the tournament, even if Carlos Alcaraz isn't there. And that's the problem I see for Novak. But everything, nothing but respect for him. And if he gets a 25 Slam, I will be happy to eat my words.
Yeah, it's hard to think that he could do anything. I mean, Wimbledon was this chance. When it comes to surfaces, the rallies are a little bit shorter. His serve is going to be a little bit more effective. He's going to get a few more free points or cheap points and quick points. Whereas now we're in the hard courts, the rallies are going to be that little bit longer, and I think it becomes a lot more physical on the body, tougher on the joints as well when he's moving from side to side. So, yeah, it's going to be tough. But I love watching Novak play. To be honest, I didn't used to be a fan of him. And I think lots of people are in the same boat when it comes to, he rubbed people up the wrong way when he was earlier on in his career. But now I have utmost respect for his level. And I think, I think he's gaining a lot of fans through his last few years being on the tour. And so, I'd love to see him win another Slam. I just think it's quite unlikely now.
Guys, we've looked at Wimbledon every day over the last 2 weeks, and thank you guys for putting in the effort as well, for turning up every night and turning this show out. Hopefully everyone that's watched it's enjoyed. We've had around 250,000 views on YouTube, which has been fantastic, and we'd love you to stay with us over the next few weeks as we build up to the US Open. Our partnership with TalkSport is going really well. We look forward to seeing you on all of our shows that are coming up. Please subscribe, like, send any comments in, and we'll try and get back to you.